But yeah, we're live now. So anyone who's joining us, great to have you here. I'm here with Renee Puvvada, and we're going to talk about books and book promotion for a little bit now. So if you have any questions as we're talking during this conversation, just pop them into the comments below. We'll try to address them as we go along if we can. If we miss them, apologies. We'll do our best. But Renee, how are you?
I'm good, David. I am loving how as you start the Substack live, all these going like, wow, this is what it's like to be popular, and in the popular click on Substack. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, I never been in the popular click before in my life. I don't think so. That's kind of cool to hear that. Yeah.
You are popular, David, I promise.
Oh,
You're
nice.
perfect.
Renee, real quick, tell people who are joining us who you are and what you do, just in like a sentence or two, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So David and I, we got connected through, I would say, like the Substack village. It feels like a village. It feels like a more than like Instagram feels like a big city. I feel like Substack, everything like kind of people ever kind of knows each other, and
Mm.
we're kind of checking what each other's doing and stuff. So um I wrote this post one time that was like detailing the woes, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And you had posted that, David, or I had posted it, you commented on it. You asked me to go on your podcast, which was very nice of you. And we connected mostly about book marketing, book publishing, how to sell more books. And I specifically help nonfiction self-published authors with selling more books. And a lot of people struggle with, they've had this beautiful dream on their heart, which I have 100% relate to. And they write the book and it sells like a few hundred copies, maybe max.
Mm.
And when you want to write your book, you're like, you had this vision of it being on like the bookstore shelves and like everywhere. Cause that's what we're all readers here. We imagined us being that really famous, awesome author that kids loved and got to
Mm.
interact with. And it's not as easy sometimes as it seems. And so that's the whole point, is to help mostly nonfiction authors become the author expert that they dream in their heart using their book. So we got connected and we've been chatting, and we're still chatting. David's invited me to his popular click. So, oh my gosh.
Oh man. No, yeah, everything says spot on, and yeah, that's how we connected. And our podcast episode that we did was really fun and really good conversation. I was actually watching a little bit of it before this again, just to kind of remind myself what it was about and stuff at the time, because it was a few months ago now. Like I think it was
Yeah.
the end of last year or the start of this year, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, great conversation and really, really insightful. If anyone is watching this and you haven't watched that podcast episode with Renee, please go back and watch that after this today and listen to it if you can, because it's really, really insightful and you'll definitely take something away from it. But Renee, so we're talking about bit promotion today, really quick. And first of all, just off the top of your head, as someone who helps people promote their books and craft funnels and coach people through those kind of processes, what are some of the best ways that authors, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, can promote books right now in 2025, would you say?
Yes, that's a good question. And David, this is a dialogue. Like, I want to hear from you as well what you've learned,
Sure.
especially because I think what I've definitely learned is that fiction and nonfiction are really different, especially when it comes to marketing and promotion.
Mm.
I talk with a lot of people who come with me and they're like, I have this amazing fiction book. And I'm like, if only I could show to you how different it is. It's not the same at all. Um,
Why is that? What,
but
what what are the biggest differences between fiction and nonfiction in terms of promotion?
right. So this is what I've learned, David, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say. But
Mm.
that with nonfiction, you're solving a problem straight up.
Yeah.
And everything in your marketing, from your title to your cover to the positioning of the book, the way you describe the book, the way you go on a podcast about the book, is you are there talking about the problem and then talking about how you uniquely solve it.
Mm.
And so people are drawn to you and your book, not necessarily because of you, but because of your entertainment value. is because they have this problem and they see that you have a solution. They're like, okay, great. I'm here for me, not because of the author. I'm not here because of the book. I'm here because I just need a solution to my problem. Whereas for fiction, like I remember when, I mean, you like you like fiction because you heard about it from someone else. Like there's a community around it. People are like raving about it. There's characters. People write fan fiction. People draw things on like deviant art. It's like a community related to the universe of the fiction world. And there's universes naturally with nonfiction everything, but it's more about the fan base and about the way that the fan base interacts with each other, whereas nonfiction is less about that. So is that what you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, I haven't written any nonfiction books, but based on my experience of Substack and helping people solve problems, in
Yeah.
terms of writing for a living, there's definitely that element of people come to find a solution to their problem, and if you can solve that for them in a clear way,
Yeah.
they'll become fans of a sense of the way in which you solve the problem. Whereas with fiction, it's more fans of the content that you create in terms of the story that you tell, that sort of thing. So, that's my personal take on it in terms of like the difference between fiction and nonfiction. But if okay, focusing in on nonfiction. So if a writer wanted to promote a nonfiction book, online,
Yeah.
what's the best way to do that right now? What do you say?
You said if a fiction author wanted to promote nonfiction.
No, just if a nonfiction author wanted to
Oh,
promote a
just
nonfiction book.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I was to describe really, I would try to understand like why their book isn't selling in the first place.
Mm,
Because I see a lot of nonfiction books, or a lot of people kind of come to me and they're like, "Hey, I have this nonfiction book," and I'm like, "Okay, so let's just taste how serious you are." And I ask them, what is the positioning of your book? What problem are you trying to solve, and how do you uniquely solve it? And usually for them, they're like, "Well, the way that I solved it was my unique method and it sounds really cool and I'm obsessed with the title and I think it sounds amazing." Um, but the first thing that you must do is know that your book is not the only book that other people are considering when they're purchasing a book to solve their problem. Your brand is not the only brand that people are considering when they're considering all the options. And so when you have like an array, like just be aware that you are one in a sea of so many other books and products like yours.
mm,
And you have to be like uncomfortably specific with how like the specific problem that you're solving
mm,
and how you solve it.
mm,
So an example is, so I'm working with one of my clients, Amy Sudo. She's a Substack bestseller as well.
mm,
And she has a book called Six Figure Freelance Writer. She's relaunching. We're considering about what is the positioning for this book, because there's a lot of books about how to make a living with writing, just like your Substack, David. Like there's how do you make a living with your writing, and there's like your brand. There's like the Nicholas Cole and Dickie Bush brand. There's like Joanna Penn has a whole thing on how to make your living with your writing. There's like I think there's another one about like freelancing, and like there's just so many ones.
there's so many.
And so truthfully, honestly, if you could let your ego just slide from this, what would honestly, David, like I'm curious to hear from you. Like
Mm,
maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but do you specifically know how your brand may be different from like Joanna Penn's brand, for example? If you, or maybe another brand that you're familiar with. Like let's just go talk
mm.
about that for a second.
I think so much of this does come down to the personality of the writer.
Mm,
Some people will connect really powerfully with a really extroverted, big energy kind of writer, and they want to, they'll naturally gravitate towards that because maybe they're like that themselves. Whereas I'm obviously not like that. I'm quite introverted and quieter, and I want to do things
mm,
more behind the scenes and approach people in a gentler, softer kind of way. And I know people will connect with me because of that reason as well.
right.
So I think there is that bridging the gap between you have the solution, you can prove that you have the solution, and your personality type that someone will connect with in the right kind of way. It's
Totally.
not going to work for everyone. I think a lot of people can be drawn to the solution that you offer, but only a certain number of people will be drawn to you as a person and want to
Right.
connect and go that like deeper level, if you know what I mean. That's my take
Yeah.
on that. Does that make sense? Would you agree with
Yes.
that?
I totally agree. Yes. So yeah, exactly. There's like different aspects to the solution. Yeah, exactly. Like the way you deliver it, like your personality for sure. And there's also, so all those like check, check. So yes. And then there's another thing where, so for example, I was looking at some of the Amazon reviews for books related to how to make a living with your writing. And a lot of the 3-star reviews are saying like, this is a good book, but it's too general. This is fine, but this is more of a, like a big vision, how to freelance your way to freedom. Like, this is awesome, raw, motivational. Another one was like Nicholas Cole's book is about like how to ghostwrite. And so his is like not freelancing. This is ghostwriting. So different ways to say the same thing, but it's just the way you say it. And
Mm,
so I think one of the biggest things that people are really craving from a book on how to make a living as a writer is it's like inch wide and a mile deep. Like
mm,
I want specifics. I want prescriptive. I want to know when and exactly how and how to update my Upwork profile and what to say on my Substack. How often do I need to publish on Substack? How do I go live on Substack? What does that even do? How do I, because like in the US, health insurance is like a big thing. So people actually want to make a living with their writing. There's all these fears and these objections with, yeah, I would love to make a living as a writer, but I got bills to pay. I got a family to feed. Like what? So that is like the blue ocean is like getting really, really, really specific.
mm.
Um, and so if you can position your book to say, I like the messaging. So, like, for example, the Amazon book description, you say specifically, this book comes with a timetable on when you can expect to go full time as a writer. This
Mm.
book includes exact details on how to update your Upwork profile. So, then 18 months, you can expect to be charging $100 an hour. Like, so, I'm saying that's an example. Maybe your niche doesn't need to be prescriptive and specific. But what I'm saying is, you need to first get really
Yeah,
specific.
it's the specifics that really do sell it that will draw people in. Know what you mean?
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. And like, oh, no, I know it makes sense. I think it's kind of the same on Substack in some ways too. If someone is maybe going to join your paid tier, or they're going to become
yeah.
like a founding member, that sort of thing. I think it's one thing to say, you'll get like a community as part of this. You'll get like such and such kind of blue ocean kind of general things, as you say. But if you can
Mm.
say like specifically, this is what you're going to get. You're going to learn how to do this specific thing. You're going to hit this
Mhm.
certain target. You're going to make this amount of money. You're going to do whatever. If you can kind of bake that into your offer, it's
Yeah,
those specifics that really really draw people in. I know that for me, if I
yeah,
if I was trying to choose between one that was kind of more general and one that was very very specific, I would
totally.
I want big money, that sort of thing. If that makes sense. And
Yeah,
I think with books as well, I think for nonfiction books, definitely, as you say, if you can just lay out exactly what people are going to get whenever they buy this book, whenever they read this book, and what they're
mhm,
going to learn how to do, even if there's like one really really specific outcome. Like for instance,
yeah.
I bought a Justin Moore's book recently about sponsorship, that sort of thing, because I wanted to learn
Okay,
how to do sponsorship on
yeah,
newsletters, that sort of thing. And
okay.
that was the one key thing I wanted to learn. I didn't want to learn about
Right.
Justin's entire network of ideas and all the things he could do. I wanted
Yeah,
that one specific solution, and it
right.
delivered. It's a great book. Just to
Oh,
just
nice.
plug it here now. But if someone was, wanting to promote that one specific idea in terms of a nonfiction book, what are things that they should do in like the weeks and months leading up to the time whenever the book launches? So, what are some of the absolute key things that any author of a nonfiction book should try to hit, and those kind of targets before the book actually comes out? Would you say?
Right. Yeah. Right. So like, so that's exactly like that's what we're trying to get to. And I think there's like the way I want to answer this is really carefully because like, um, like maybe someone wants to see like, okay, if you can just get onto the cover of Forbes, then you're solid. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the case. I would say that so let's like okay, so like one there's like a two-pronged answer. Like one, make sure your book's positioning and specificity is super clear. And then 2, then we can talk about promotion. So the way I would view any even nonfiction promotion is when you're driving traffic to a product, it's kind of like putting rain on a garden. And so if, for instance, you have the message about your book is unclear or not aligned, it's going to seem like weeds in a garden. You're going to spend all this money and this time to get the Forbes article, to get on the big podcast, to go stuff, all these different things. And then when you finally drive traffic to it, it's not weeded out. If it's not really specific, then you're going to end up getting weeds. So first step is positioning, getting really specific on your marketing. Okay, so now let's talk about promotion and all that good stuff. So what I would recommend to anyone with a dead self-published book is to do a relaunch. Just be okay, just cut my losses. That's fine. It was okay. I'll try again. If you really believe in your book and you really believe in the message and how it can help people, then I would consider a relaunch. Because
do you mean actually taking the book and fully relaunching it as a new book, or just kind of putting it out there again afresh?
So if your book launch failed, there's probably several reasons, and that's kind of why you have to look at it from multiple angles. Was the positioning actually solid? Did you actually have confidence, or did you just try and hope for the best? So look at that, and also look at the launch strategy. So both, but yes, I would say a relaunch basically means clearing the table and being what went right and what needs to be adjusted. There's this book, it's called the Humanure Handbook or something like that. It's a book about taking human waste and turning it into fuel and fertilizer for your garden. It was relaunched 5 times.
Really?
It's the same book. Yeah. This guy really believed in this book so much that he relaunched it 5 times. I would say yes, relaunch, possibly redo the title, possibly redo the cover, possibly even redo the content, because your book has to be so specific. And if you also felt you didn't do the best marketing actions, if it wasn't a super tight launch, if you were just fumbling around and just posting on TikTok and hoping for the best, then full on relaunch, doing it right this time. And that would, for nonfiction, I would say includes using Amazon. So it's so Amazon has an algorithm. And the first 30 days, the more sales that you can get and the more reviews that you can get, Amazon will push your book out to its own customers, people who are looking for a book like yours. Because Amazon knows your buying behavior. Amazon has all this data on you. Amazon knows exactly what books you've bought and stuff you've bought in the past. So it says, David, you bought this book on sponsorships before. How about this book on sponsorships? You can unsubscribe from these emails, but they're also suggesting things to you all the time. So relaunch on Amazon and also go on a really good laser targeted podcast tour, because podcasting is so powerful for nonfiction, because it's 68% of podcast listeners have purchased a book that they heard about on a podcast. It's almost it's that thing in marketing where it's I'm part of a club. People love to say, I heard about this book on a podcast, because they like to say I'm smart and cool and interesting. I was literally getting dinner with a friend. This was over Christmas break. And they were yeah, I was listening to this awesome podcast. And and we were talking about the stuff from the book. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, this is literally what we're trying to induce. People, talking about cool, interesting things because of the podcast, because of the book, that whole thing.
How do you get on a podcast?
Oh, there's so many nuances to that question. Yeah. So is this okay? So David, one, if you want to get on David's podcast, maybe there's a synchronicity where you write an article and he reaches out to you and you're oh, all of a sudden on a podcast. So podcasting, there's like a lot of different nuances. And the biggest factor is that it can be like a black box
Mm,
because people are like, I have this podcast. And if it's a really popular podcast, then people are going to probably hide their contact information. They can have like a gatekeeper.
mm,
But if you are trying to go on like a very intentional nonfiction podcast, I would probably use like matching services or kind of create a very targeted specific list
mm,
of the right podcasts that you need to be on, get their contact information and their pitch info. And this is all very specific. There's like so many layers to this, but you need to have a pitch. You need to have a really targeted pitch that speaks to why you being on their podcast, it benefits them.
mm.
So everything you're doing is like benefiting them and their audience, helping them grow, helping them succeed. Um, and yeah, have that pitch following up. Yeah, and they even might never respond, so you have to have several irons in the fire. It's like a blitz, I would say. It's just like,
Yeah,
it can get kind of chaotic.
yeah. I know. I can't remember who it was. If it was Dan Co or somebody. Uh,
Mhm,
One of those big creators did like a podcast blitz before
mhm,
the book came out, and it made the book like wildly successful. Um,
mhm.
like so well, and he did like so many podcast episodes beforehand and stuff. And yeah, like I something I'm trying to do at the minute is get myself onto some podcasts like for fiction. So like because I have like a fantasy book coming out
Mm.
this summer and then
Oh, yeah.
coming out. How do you find those podcasts? You mentioned about like podcast matching services.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of one of those that you maybe know of?
Yes. So I recommend all my people to go to podmatch.com. There's also like matchmaker.fm. So the thing with podcasting is that there's kind of these challenges, is that like some people will be like, thanks for pitching to me, but I'm not even recording right now. Or some people will be like, thanks for pitching, but this is the wrong email, or like you just can't ever find their email address,
Mm,
or there's all these like challenges with pitching to podcasts. And so the pod matching service is like when you're pitching to someone on that service, they're like actively looking for guests.
yeah.
They it's all the communication is on the platform, so you don't have to like scrounge around for the pitch email.
I'm looking down now,
You
by the way.
know,
I'm looking down.
yeah, podmatch.com. Yes. And there's like a lot of different niches on there too. So like I wonder, I've never searched for fiction on there, David. But I would be really, there's a lot of like writing, making a living with writing, um, with like just finance and freelancing and like making your own way, solopreneurship, that whole marketing and sales. And like that is definitely a
Mm,
place. There's a ton of them, and they're all trying to grow their podcasts. So it's like, oh, great! It's like a fertile ground for people looking for guests. But you have to be really careful because you don't want to just be on any podcast. You need to be on very specific podcasts because if you are talking about how to make a living with writing, and most of these people are like in B2B sales, it's like
yeah.
not the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really good advice, actually. I mean, I've seen the benefit personally of hosting a podcast.
yeah,
I've also seen the benefit of being a guest on
yeah.
live guests or other people's podcasts as well. I think just kind of going on those kind of things as a writer is helpful too, because the more you talk about your book, the better you understand how to pitch it. I think in future
Oh,
as
true.
so like for me, initially, people ask what my books were about, I would like be like, oh, blah, 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 like stumble my way through it. Whereas
Yeah,
after a point, I'm able to talk about it in a really targeted kind of way and say,
totally.
"For this kind of person, if you like this kind of genre or this kind of writer, you're gonna like this,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Right.
Um, and that's just with practice. The more you talk about it, the better you get at talking about your book in future. Um, what are you working on right now? So, I'm not gonna keep you too much longer, but just to kind of, like, start to circle us in towards the landing strip here, what kind of things are you working on right now, behind the scenes?
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear what you are too, David. We kind of touched about this really briefly. Um, specifically, if we're gonna get really targeted, my niche is really for um multi six figure like service based entrepreneurs, like author experts, consultants, coaches and they have a book. They published a book maybe like last year or 2 years ago, and the launch it failed. Maybe they have like a huge like TikTok following, and they tried posting about their book on the TikTok, and it like didn't work.
Mm,
But now they're like, I'm ready. I'm ready to relaunch. I am ready to try again because I know that this book can actually help me grow my business. And so that is the kind of person that I help. And so I have on the background, so I'm working with some VIP clients on, much more like one-to-one, like let's get your marketing down pat. Let's get your podcast tour down pat. Let's
mm,
make sure that the timeline is down pat. So that's what's going on there. And then I also have a group program. So this is more like on the group side, like if you want, if, you have like lower budget, but there's also like calls and things like that. And we do podcasts and public speaking training on there too. So it's really fun.
mm.
And working on the videos and like learning how to manage my time with all the different things. So there's a lot of things going on, of course. And what about you, David? I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, so I'm working on a lot too. And by the way, you've got a nice big whiteboard in the background there. It's just covered and stuff. So I think that maybe reflects how busy you are right now, which is great. Yeah, so I'm bringing out the sequel, if I can reach behind me and get
Okay.
it, to this book.
Oh my
Just
gosh. Beautiful.
yeah, so the sequel to that is coming out this summer. I can't say exactly when because we're still kind of trying to nail the release date for it, but I've seen the cover, the completed cover for it, so I'm really excited to get that out there and that sort of
That's
thing.
really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool one once you eventually get it done, all the little tweaks are made and you see it in like in the flesh, so to speak, for the first time.
Right.
The designer's done. So I'm excited to get that out. And then I've got another horror novel coming out in December. So and the cover for that is done as well. So
Oh,
I'm working on those.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. So fiction wise, I'm working on those two specific things at the minute.
Nice.
I'm trying to like reverse engineer it from the release date for each one and try and hit those key things I need to do beforehand. So getting arc readers and getting a bit
Hmm.
of content made in terms of promotion and that sort of stuff, which is a constant learning curve. I don't think any writer ever fully gets it at the start, and it does take a long time to kind of work it out, especially in terms of fiction. But I think one thing I'm
Hmm.
trying to do more of is podcasts. I'm going to try and go on more podcasts if I can, if they'll help
Hmm.
me talk about the books and that sort of thing. And
Right.
just trying to find them and trying to like get in touch with them and that sort of thing. So um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's a really good thing to do. I think podcasts and YouTube and that sort of thing is definitely really effective in terms of promotion. And TikTok
Yeah.
in the sense that it does, you get a lot of content from TikTok. So other book talkers will make videos about your book, and then you can share that with your audience.
Right.
So I did a lot of that last year, and
Okay.
it's really good because like I'm not naturally comfortable with being on camera, which is weird because I do a lot of these live videos and podcasts, but yet I'd rather be behind the scenes. But some people love being on camera; they're so good at it, and they're so extroverted and everything. So let those people make the content for you about your
Good.
product or book, and then you just share
Yeah.
it. Yes. So that's been a major thing I've been doing and working on over time. But yeah, it's exciting. It's definitely like it's a fun thing to do. Like
Yes.
writing the book is the easy bit, and then it's all the other promotion after it that's the bit that really
Hmm.
burns your brain trying to figure it out, I think. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you offer like fiction writing workshops, David? Because I'm definitely wanting that like the next few like 12 to 24 months. And I'm like, I would love to work with someone and just I've never done it. I mean, you write like stuff as a kid,
Mm.
but how do you write like a full-fledged fiction book, you know? Like I'm curious to hear how you do that.
Yeah, no, I might do fiction workshops in future. I know I've been asked about that before. But yeah, like for me, like I wrote whenever I was a kid as well. I wrote like really,
Mhm.
really bad fan fiction.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, yeah, like really embarrassing. I look back on it. It was so bad.
Oh gosh.
Um, but it teaches you how to do it. And like I think just
Yeah.
again, it's a practice and like working that muscle and stuff like that. And the main
Yeah.
thing for me is just being consistent. Like I'm writing
Mhm.
a book right, and in April and for most of May, I was really, really inconsistent. I was kind of bouncing around doing different things and wasn't focused. I was actually one of the reasons why I wasn't focused was because I was creating a mini course about how to write a book consistently. So that's my I know yeah, that's my 1K daily writing challenge I've just released recently. So I'm now working my way through my own course to keep me on track with the book I'm writing now. So yeah,
Okay.
help us write 1,000 words a day or around that of your book. And I know that for me, whenever I'm in that kind of mode of writing and sharing about it every day on Substack and that kind of thing, which you'll see me
Uh-huh.
do recently on notes, whenever
Yeah.
I have kind of
Mhm.
mindset, I can get through a book a lot quicker. And for
Yeah.
me, whenever I write consistently every day, the book comes together a lot faster and it's a better book as well. So
Mhm. Okay.
I'm enjoying that process. That book should be finished next month, hopefully, and that'll be my fifth book, I think.
Oh my
And
goodness, that's incredible.
yeah, but definitely workshops and that sort of thing in future would be a way to go. And are you thinking about doing fiction in future?
I would love to. I would love to. I have some ideas, and maybe this is like I have too high of a standard, but like, my mom and her family, they're Chinese, but they grew up in Vietnam and they had a whole like war refugee story where they escaped when they were escaping the Vietnam War and then they like um rekindled back in Hong Kong and of course to them they're like this is not an interesting story, but as kids like my cousins and I were enraptured with this story and so my cousin and I were at least at the very least wanting to document this story for the family, but I feel like there's a lot of stories like this that need to be told, at least in like the public eye, that can really bring, just it's just like these are conversations I would love to have about things that are gray and things that are not always black and white and not always just good and evil. It's like that's stuff that's just so hard, right?
Yeah.
And it might look like a fictionalization somewhat of like the real story. We're not sure yet, but it would be really, really
Oh,
cool.
yeah, you should do that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Sure. That'll be a really really interesting story. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would read that. It sounds
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I think that whole thing as well between they're working in the gray rather than the black
Yeah.
and the good versus bad.
Yeah.
That's where things are most interesting anyway. Whenever you have characters, you stray into that middle portion, and you
Yeah.
don't really know if they're good or bad or what way they're going to go. And for me, that's what's really really interesting. Like I think purely good or purely bad characters can sometimes be kind of boring, and if
Mhm.
you can pull them into that bit in the middle where you're not quite sure, and you as a reader aren't sure if you could trust this person or not in future
Right.
as the
Yeah.
story progresses. That's a really cool place to be. Yeah, you should definitely write that. And like, if you ever want to talk about it in future, we can. Um,
Yeah.
about
I'd
doing
love
fiction
to.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You're clearly
well,
the go-to expert here. Five novels. I mean, that's crazy. That's amazing. It's amazing.
it's fun. I definitely enjoy it, and I definitely want to talk to you more in future as well about promotion, for stuff too. And maybe bounce some ideas on that in future.
Yeah.
Yeah, Renee, it's been so good to talk to you today. I really, really enjoy these chats.
Thanks so much for the invite, David. This was super fun. Always love
Yeah,
talking to you.
yeah, they're so interesting because I mean the stuff that I'm asking you is stuff that I genuinely want help with in many ways too. So it's not just for my readers and watchers and listeners. It's genuinely for me as well. So, um,
Mhm.
really good conversations. But um, where can people find you? So Substack the best place to connect if anyone's interested in working with you. They just approach you on Substack, and is that the best way to do it?
Yeah. I'm sure like so I have a Substack, the newsletter. That's a great place to get started with just understanding your what your brain is like now and where your brain probably needs to be in order to find success with nonfiction book marketing. Like there's a lot of beliefs that we address there. And when we can address those beliefs and those thoughts, then you might find that nonfiction book marketing might be a little more easy for you.
Mm.
That's a great place to find me on Smokin' Hot Books, Smokin' with N apostrophe. Um, and yeah, I'm excited and you can also DM me, you can ask me your questions. Yeah, have fun and yeah, get to learning.
Awesome,
Same.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the invite, David.
No problem. I'll share this video in a couple of days or so, in a post. But anyone who's watching now, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments, and maybe we'll jump in and maybe answer them at the time. But yeah, Renee, thanks so much for spending this time. I hope you have a really great day. You mentioned the rain, at one point in the course of this conversation, and it's absolutely lashing right now in Northern Ireland, where I am as usual. Even though it's June, we've had a terrible June so far. But uh,
Oh no.
yeah, just to give you a bit of a picture of what it's like here. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, really good talking to you, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you, David. Nice talking to you as well. Bye.
Bye bye.